Today is June 29th, 2019, and this is the status update of the Stoneybrook Gardens. These are wildwood elderberries, which were planted last year and have grown tremendously since then. They have beautiful large flower clusters. And here you can see the berries starting. I also notice that the stem and twigs have turned purplish compared with one that still has the flowers on it instead of the berries, and that's green. And here's one being pollinated by a bumblebee. Busy at work there. And then I have some which only have a couple berries, and I think what happened is these flowers were ready for pollination right when there was a lot of rain, and so only a few were pollinated. And compared to ones right next to it, which have actually more little berries, which were later, and these, which were later in a drier point in time. Okay, moving on to the clematis, which, although it's not really a food plant or an herb, is a beautiful, beautiful vine. And that is actually probably close to 30 years old, that plant. It's done really well in that spot. The sage has filled out nicely, and the basil that survived that early frost is actually doing well. And the chives need a haircut. This front bed has 2 dahlia and a whole bunch of volunteers, self-seeded from last year, calendula. Really need to thin it out. It's got grass in there too. It's just kind of out of control. Moving on to the main garden, I'll do a pan of the main garden. So my focus this year has been helping out pollinators and planting a lot of flowering plants that are native. So this actually is a dwarf black mulberry in here. I have 1 dill and a bunch of thyme. The thyme is almost done flowering. I didn't get any fruit this year, but the mulberry is doing really well. Looks great. Hopefully next year. Okay, moving on over to bed number 1. I have megaton leeks, which are almost ready to harvest. I could probably do some, pull some now. and then some dill. And the dill is doing really well. It actually grew up alongside the lettuce. I had several varieties of lettuce in here earlier in the spring, and when I pulled the lettuce out after it started to bolt, the dill just took off. And this dill will be a host to the black swallowtail butterfly. So far I haven't seen any, but I'm hopeful. As you can see, it's starting to flower. And the native pollinators really love these type of flowers. Okay, this bed has carrots and lettuce, and I had ripped out all of the lettuce except one variety so I could save seeds once the lettuce flowered. And these are actually loved by the honeybees, these lettuce flowers, which you can see are coming. So far, though, I have not seen any honeybees. The carrots are doing fine. I actually have 3 varieties of carrots in here. I have a yellow, a purple, and an orange. And my raspberry bed is doing really well. And I have berries already growing. So actually, these are a fall raspberry, and what I did this year to try and evade some of the Drosophila, the spotted winged Drosophila, which gets into the berries later on in the season, is I didn't cut these down to the ground like I usually do. I let some of the canes grow and stay over the winter, and then they sprouted early, and so they have berries earlier than they would normally. Normally this would not, these berries wouldn't be ready until September, but we're trying to avoid the spotted winged Drosophila. So bed number 2 has strawberries. This is, they're newly planted this spring in April. So trying to establish a new strawberry bed, and hopefully we'll have great strawberries next June. They're June bearers, they're jewel strawberries. Last year I got 9 quarts in a bed this size, which is 3 by 12. So hopefully we'll get even more from this variety, and because they're not an old plant, they're not old plants. So bed number 3, we have some German chamomile, some bachelor button, some calendula, and some Swiss chard. And the Swiss chard has been phenomenal. Let's see if I can zoom in on this busy little bee without annoying him. There's the bumblebees, just love the bachelor buttons. So the Swiss chard's been great. I've had quite a few cuttings of it already, and it will survive the summer, which is amazing to me. that this nice leafy green just doesn't die in the summer or bolt and set seed. And then it'll, you know, it looks kind of blah in the middle of the summer, but then again, and once it gets a little cooler, it'll be beautiful like this. So I had several cuttings of it, and I love to take it and saute up some onions, and then a little bit of chicken broth, and then chop up the leaves and saute that or steam it in the chicken broth and sprinkle it with a little Parmesan cheese. It's marvelous. So here's a dahlia, one of the bigger ones that is getting ready to bloom.